everybody. This is John Marola from Keeping It Real Section 5 Football, and this is our 20th episode. And I have to say this, I say it all the time. We're just moving and moving. I can't believe we're already 20 in. But tonight's episode has got a little bit to do with last week's episode. I had Dan DeVos here from UNC Charlotte, who was my neighbor. Tonight I have Ricky Barton. Ricky is an old player of mine at Aquinas, and he now is the director of tickets.
Account manager, luxury and suites for the Dolphins and Hard Rock Stadium.
For the Dolphins and the Hard Rock. So our episode today is going to be more of, like last week we talked to Dan about Rochester, UNC Charlotte. Now we're going to talk to Ricky about Rochester to the Miami Dolphins and that journey. And just to let people know that, after your playing days are over, you can still, if you love your sports, honestly, I think, he's living a dream right now. It's in a great part of the United States, and he's still doing something he loves to do. So let's start a little bit, Rick. So after your days at Aquinas, I know you went to Fisher. What was going on?
Yeah, so I was kind of alluding to it a little bit earlier, but after Aquinas, I went to St. John Fisher, played 4 years of lacrosse there, and graduated there with a media management degree. Originally, as I was telling you, I wanted to I wanted to be one of those guys on ESPN, right? Whether it's the play-by-play or the color analyst or just doing highlights, whatever it was. I thought that was the coolest thing just growing up, seeing, Scott Van Pelt and Stuart Scott and all those guys. And that was really what I wanted to do throughout college. My junior, senior year, I did sports journalism. I had my own kind of show, sports show. We did highlights, and I would kind of recap everything like that. So pretty passionate about that. As soon as I graduated, I found out that that's really a tough dream to make happen. Just being in the Rochester market, it's just a smaller town. You got to get in, it's a grind for a while. So, I wanted to get my feet wet. I wanted to start working. So figured I'd start in sales, just having a general liking to talking to people, being able to relate to different people. So, I had about 4 or 5 different sales jobs after college, and I really didn't know what I wanted to do, right? I knew I could sell, I could talk to people, but, as I was telling you earlier, there was times when my first job, I was in different Walmarts around Rochester. We had a little Spectrum cable and internet stand, and, I was stopping people as they were shopping, asking them who they had for cable and internet, trying to sell them Spectrum. And, a lot of times people would just walk right by me, ignore me. And, after a while, I'm like, what the heck am I doing here, right?
Yeah.
So it was a long journey after that. I worked at Paychex for a little bit. I sold life insurance. And really when I found out that the sales thing was something that I could make a career out of, I was actually working for a gutter company. It's called Leaf Guard. So maintenance-free gutters, right?
Yeah.
And I would go all across Rochester, Syracuse, Buffalo, and go to these appointments and sit in people's kitchen with them and just talk to them just like we're talking now and say, hey, you got a problem with your gutters, whatever the case is. And I did pretty well with that. And that's when I realized that I wanted to stick with sales just because you can really control how much money you make in it. But the passion wasn't there for me. So I'm one of the biggest just sports fans in general. Growing up, it was all about sports, being outside playing sports, being inside watching sports. So I wanted to be involved. So I heard, I was trying to get in. I was messaging everyone on LinkedIn, hey, how do I get a job in pro sports? Hey, how do I get a job in pro sports? Finally, someone was like, hey, what I did was I went to teamworkonline.com, which is what I refer everyone that asks me. Teamworkonline.com, that's how I got my start. And, I saw a job. One of the jobs I applied for was seasonal ticket sales rep for the Kansas City Chiefs. And this was in 2019, right after Patrick Mahomes, had his coming out party. He was the MVP. And, naturally, I just kind of thought to myself, what's easier than selling tickets for the MVP? That's the best ticket in sports right now. So not thinking much of it. I applied for that role in Kansas City to work for the Chiefs. And lo and behold, a couple of weeks later, the manager over there, he reached out to me via phone call. He said, hey, we liked your resume. We want you to come to Kansas City and take an interview. So I'm like, hey, that's pretty far away from Rochester, New York. These flights are expensive. Like, can you fly me out? Can we do an interview over Zoom? He's like, no, we can't. We need you to come out. We can't pay for it. I was like, all right, well, $800 round trip flight and a hotel later. I was in Kansas City for 24 hours. I did a panel interview with me and six to eight other people, where they're just firing questions off at you, and did pretty well. And then a couple weeks later, the manager called me back and he said, hey, if you want the job, it's yours. You start in 2 weeks. So, like I was telling you, me living in Rochester my whole life,
Yeah.
high school, college, being 24 years old, never leaving home, to have to decide to go to Kansas City, it was a huge step. But I tell everyone that asked me about the experience and the journey, it was literally the best thing I ever did.
Mm-hmm.
And I always recommend people to step out of their comfort zone, because that's really when you're going to make the most impact. That's really when you're going to grow the most. So I ended up going there as part of a seasonal program with about 6 other people, and basically it was all results driven. Ended up being at the top of that class as far as revenue.
Mm-hmm.
Then at the end of the year, they ended up winning the Super Bowl. The whole entire business staff got Super Bowl rings. So it was really just like a very lucky, just fate type of thing, where
The right place at the right time.
right place at the right time, me sitting on my computer applying for this job, going out there, being there for a year. Kansas City is a great city, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
And then getting a Super Bowl ring, right? So it was perfect. It couldn't have been going any better if it was scripted. But then, I kind of thought about it. The summers are really hot there. The winters are really cold there. So, and me, naturally growing up a Dolphins fan, my dad was a big Dolphins fan, and I grew up with Ricky Williams, Ronnie Brown, Wildcat offense, that sort of thing, and that was just my favorite sports team. So I'm like, hey, I'm in the NFL. Why don't I try to go work for my favorite team, right? So I went back to the website, Teamwork Online, and they had a couple different job postings. I applied. I had some relevant experience, which helped a lot. And then I got in touch with one of the managers. They brought me out for an interview. In similar situation, they said, hey, before I even got on the plane back home, they called me and said, hey, we want to hire you. You would start, at the start of the next month, which is about 3 weeks after that. So then from the Dolphins, when I started in 2020, I did my training. I made a couple of sales, and then all of a sudden, COVID hits, right? And you're working from home. So I actually ended up working from home for an entire year.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know any of my other employees, because it was all remote. No one could really do too much because of COVID. So, and it was a tough thing. I would never. The next time I get a job and they ever ask me what's the most adversity you had to go through, it would be trying to convince people to come out to a football game, right after a global pandemic.
Yes.
with 60,000 people.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So it was a humbling experience. There's not much you could do there was a couple months at a time. You really couldn't do too much. So we did what we could from home and did some prospecting, things like that. Naturally, I got promoted working remotely, and then after a year, we went back in the office. And it's been 3 years since then. I've gotten another promotion since then. Now I'm mostly overseeing like the luxury and suites for the Dolphins, the F1 Miami, and then the Hard Rock Stadium, so all the other events as well. So that's the journey. It wasn't really a straight path, but once you kind of find your groove, you find what you're good at, find what you enjoy. It's definitely worthwhile.
It's one thing that you said when we were just talking about it right now was when you were out at Kansas City, that you had to take yourself out of your comfort zone. And I think that's a word these days with people, we hear, doing something on your comfort zone. It could be like really, really hard to do, especially in your situation. You're talking, you were 24 years old at the time.
Yep.
You never lived out of Rochester.
Mm-hmm.
And taking that step and that challenge is just, that's, like you said, one of the, biggest things you probably ever done in your life so far.
Yeah, it was definitely the biggest leap of faith I ever took. The hardest part was convincing my mom that I was going to move to Missouri and live on my own and not know anybody or know anything about the Midwest. But it was a very rewarding experience for sure.
Yeah, and now being down in Miami, I mean it's a hot spot in the United States as far as like sports and just everything.
Yeah. I mean, everybody except the Dolphins right now. We still have the longest playoff drought, but Last year we had the Heat in the finals, the Panthers in the finals.
Mm-hmm.
FAU was in the Final Four. The U was in the Final Four, right? So I mean, Miami sports, they're very relevant, and it's like an international entertainment destination, right? People from all over the world are coming to these different events. Like I was telling you earlier, when you're doing things on the Formula One side,
Mm-hmm.
Formula One Miami, which they just started a couple years ago in Miami. You're talking to people all over the world, royalty, where they're sending a wire for $200,000 for 3 days, right? So it's just that cool experiences. You need like to use a translator sometimes, and you're immersing yourself in different kind of backgrounds and things like that. So it's fun. It's cool.
Yeah. Talk to me a little bit about your. All right, there's a game. Miami's playing today at Hard Rock. What is your role for that game?
Yeah, so that's a good question. So basically, my main function is I'll oversee on game day. I'll oversee a couple of different luxury spaces. The nicer all-inclusive spaces that requires just more attention to detail. So I'll just make sure everything's in order as far as the setup goes. I'll make sure that the food comes out on time, the food looks right, and then everyone basically in that space is not having any issues with anything. That's one of the functions. Really, what I focus on more though is my clients, making sure they're having a good time.
Mm-hmm.
So my biggest thing that I do with the Dolphins game days is I sell single game suites, which probably start around $20,000 just for one game, up to about 80,000. And for one game, yeah, 80,000. That was one of the games last year. We had a Monday Night Football game against the Titans.
Mm-hmm.
This woman, they were both retired. This woman was surprising her husband for his retirement. She bought a $75,000 suite for the Titans game on Monday Night Football. So it's crazy, but you want to make sure that you bring that experience to life, right?
Yes.
So the suite looks good. I'm writing a thank you card. I'm checking in every quarter, halftime. Hey, do you need anything? Making sure they got their parking. So just really just troubleshooting on game day. You do all the other work, bringing it to life before that, and then really it's just executing the experience to make them want to do it again, right? If they do it this year, hey, let's make them want to spend another 50,000 next season, right? So just making the experiences the best for my clients, really.
What about away games? What is your role
So
for that?
we love away games because we get to watch from our couch and do nothing, right?
Yeah.
You get to enjoy a Sunday football like anybody else watching Red Zone,
Mm-hmm.
door dashing or just enjoying yourself. So really, I love away games. There were some I'll go to. So I went to the Bills game last year. I went to the Philly game last year, and we actually have a suite trip that we do for our annual suite members. So like an annual suite member is someone that has a suite for the entire season.
Okay.
We actually bring them on an away game trip. So we'll fly them on the team plane. We'll put them up in a hotel. We'll bring them to the game in a shuttle and give them tickets. So there's some of the guys in the luxury side of things, luxury sales, luxury service, get to go to that with them
Mm-hmm.
and kind of experience that with them. So that's like a 1 or 2 away game basis each year.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's real cool. Now you mentioned to me that when you're in Kansas City, you got a ring.
Yes.
And if I knew that before you came here today,
Well, I got the picture. I can still send you the picture,
that'd be awesome.
and you can put it up.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's cool. It's funny though. It's I think my dad actually likes it and is more proud of it than I am.
Oh, really?
Because it's just funny whenever my dad will tell people about my path. He'll just be like, "Yeah, he's got a Super Bowl ring." Yeah, it's pretty much his ring at this point. It does say Barton on the side, so I catch him putting it on here and there. But
I can see him putting it on too.
it's funny because the Chiefs have been in since I've been with the Chiefs. They've won 2 more Super Bowls and they've been in 3 since I worked there. So even though I'm a Dolphins fan, I work for the Dolphins. Whenever they play in it, I do wear the ring and I'm rooting for them just because, I still feel a little bit like, part of that dynasty a little bit because that was the first one. I was there. I helped sell the stadium. So,
Yes.
it was very cool. It's one of probably my most prized possession, I would say.
Oh,
Yeah.
As far as Miami, how is your like you meet the players, coaches? I've seen you had some pictures with the head coach.
So I had I got a picture with Tua
Oh.
last year during the year. It was actually really cool. Um, so we had our CEO Tom Garfinkel come into the office, the sales floor. So the players, we just have a brand new practice facility. It was like $100 million. It's right next to the stadium. So the business staff works in the stadium. The brand new practice facility is like right next door. It's like still on campus, but it's not together. So they have their own dining hall. They do all the meetings over there. So we really don't see them very often. So one day we're in the office and the CEO is walking around showing Tua the business floor and kind of telling him what we do, and he had no idea really. And we have these screens that show like top revenue performers and things like that. So Tua naturally, I'm in a meeting. Tua asks the CEO, "Hey, who's number one in overall sales?" And our CEO Tom Garfield, he didn't even know. So he's asking around, and he's like, and they're like, "Who's number one in new sales?" And one of them was like, "Oh, Ricky Barton is." And we're like, "Well," he was like, well, "Where's Ricky Barton?" So I'm in a meeting. He actually pulls me out of the meeting in front of like the whole sales floor, and he was like, "Hey, were you number one in sales?" I was like, "Yeah." Well, he said, "Number one in sales deserves a picture with QB1." And in front of like the whole sales floor, he takes my phone, he takes a picture of me and Tua, and he was just like, "Congratulations!" And it's just like stuff like that makes it really worth it, right? Like the grind you do, all the calls and the meetings and the emails and just everything you have to do leading up to that. Like moments like that really make it worth it. So to answer your question, not to go on a tangent there, but we really don't interact with the players too much. When I was in Kansas City, we had the same exact dining hall as them.
Okay.
So I'd be walking back from the lunchroom with like a piece of pie in my hand, and Patrick Mahomes is just walking right next to me, or Travis Kelsey's just walking right by me, right?
Yeah.
Where you're interacting with them on a more day-to-day basis. So it's a little different for those teams.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Just I didn't even mention this to you, but next week I start working my summer job over at St. John Fisher,
Okay.
Buffalo Bills camp.
Yep.
So I've already looked at my schedule. I'll be in the players' dorm, I think all of next week, which is not a problem.
No.
But you really get to know them and everything. Last year I was in the coaches' dorm a lot.
Yep.
And I met all the coaches, and I'll tell you, Coach McDermott is just, they're just so down to earth.
He seems like a
Just really, really great people. And Terry Pagula,
Yep.
Brandon Bean, all of them, they're just nice guys.
Yeah, for sure.
And I think that, shows you a little bit about what kind of team they are, and as far as, they talk family, they are a family.
Yeah.
And I think that's important. I mean, you play high school football, you play college lacrosse, and that family aspect. I mean, it's important.
For sure.
If you got guys that you want to fight with. We were talking earlier that you became good friends with George's son Dante.
Dante, that's my guy. Yep.
Yeah, that's what you were saying.
That's my guy.
That's those are lifetime things.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And what we're trying to, like I said, here's another Rochester man that I just happened to coach, and now he's basically he's living a dream. He's doing something, even though your football lacrosse days are over.
Yeah.
You're still in sports. For we were talking earlier about my guest last week with Danny DeVos. Just getting done with his 30th year at UNC Charlotte.
It's amazing.
You know what I mean? And maybe, God willing, in a couple of years we can come back and talk again about, your years and your journey and everything. It's just, it's letting people know that, if you still love sports, and you still want to be involved, like you said, you just started looking up stuff on the internet, a couple phone calls, and then, you were around Rochester a little bit with some things, and then here's Kansas City.
Yep.
And Kansas City, Miami.
Yeah, I mean it is crazy. Like it seems like just yesterday. I've been in the NFL with the two teams for 5 years now, and it seems like it just goes by so fast. But now that I'm a little bit more established, there's people that reach out all the time, like LinkedIn or just friends or colleagues or friends of friends, right? That they want to come in, and I'm more than happy to jump on a call with anybody at any time, let them know my experiences, or tell them how they can get involved too. Because I mean, if you do it right and you put the work in, it really could be a lucrative career, both with experiences and financially. So I would definitely recommend it. And like I said, yeah, teamwork online, or there's a lot of different places where you can find opportunities. But it's all about just getting the start, right? Just get the start somewhere,
Yep, yep.
and then you maneuver and you go where you want to go from there.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
That is really awesome. What so on your off time, like you're back in Rochester now, when are you going back down to Miami?
So I'm going back. I've been here for a couple of weeks. I'm going back this Sunday to. I live in Fort Lauderdale, so the stadium is in Miami Gardens, and then Miami is the stadium's right in between. So it's Fort Lauderdale, Miami Gardens, and then Miami.
Yeah.
So it's about a 20-minute drive to the stadium. So I'll go back to Fort Lauderdale on Sunday and be back in the office and back to the grind.
Actually, I was down your way maybe about 5 years ago.
Yeah.
I was in Fort Lauderdale. I was down watching, I know high school football.
Yep.
I was down watching, who's the pretty good team in Fort Lauderdale?
Uh,
High school football.
there's a few. I mean, St. Thomas Aquinas is good every year, right? That's my first one. Yeah. I mean, so you can't go wrong there. Yeah.
Heritage?
Heritage,
Yeah.
they're really good. They got some 5-star receivers.
Yeah.
Modern Day, I think they're. No, I don't think they're in
No.
South Florida, but
Then on the other side, you got IMG.
Yeah.
And Jones High School. I know they're starting to come out a little bit.
yeah,
But
it's,
St. Thomas Aquinas, I went down and watched them play 5 years ago, and they're a freaking
machine. I saw them play basketball. Actually, I went to one of their basketball games,
Did you?
and they're awesome at basketball too.
Yeah.
So it reminds me of when I was at Aquinas, our Aquinas days. My junior year, we lost in the state semis to Maine Enwell,
Mm-hmm.
which was brutal,
Mm-hmm.
and then they ended up winning it all. And then in basketball, my junior year, we lost in the state championship. So
Now, were you with Duran?
Jerron's a year older than me, but I was on that team,
You're
that
on-
varsity
yeah.
team, for football and then basketball, like
You were
Phil
playing
Valeni.
DN.
I played DN.
Yeah. So that was something. Like I said, we're just trying to get people different ways to think. If you are interested, at the beginning of our show, I had underneath, I have my phone number here. Call me if you would like to talk to Ricky. If you're interested in this field as far as getting started. Like I said, I think the biggest thing is when you said you got to take yourself out of your comfort zone.
Yeah.
And for people to do that, you get so accustomed of this is who I am, this is what I'm doing, and you're still young. You're in your 20s. You got your whole life still in front of you. Give a call or an email or whatever. It's not something you don't have to do, but as far as looking into it, there might be an opportunity in there. Hey, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, if you want, if you just want something different, or you want more, or you want to try something new, I have friends that are in their 30s that they want to come and start out even from square one, where I started 4 years ago. They're willing to do that to get to where you can be, just because it's very rewarding as far as experiences go, and just there's a lot of people passionate about sports, and it doesn't have to be the NFL, right? The NBA has the same exact business staff, NHL, MLB, all the teams have the same exact business staff where you can get in. All it takes is just putting your foot out there and taking a step out and out of your comfort zone and try something different. Yeah, for sure.
Now, you're here right now. Is this your final is this it, or is there? You gotta be looking for more.
Yeah.
Right?
Always.
What else is there out there?
So that's a good question. It's actually something that I'm trying to figure out and decide what I want to do next, right? So there's a couple different avenues you could go. The most linear one would be, so I'm at the top point of actually selling, right?
Okay.
As far as selling goes, like that's the top position as far as selling.
Mhm.
But the next step on that side, ticket sales and luxury sales, would be managing, right? Where you oversee a team of maybe 5 people, and you have to kind of lead them and maximize their potential. So that's one route, right? You can go manager of a luxury team, and then director of a ticket sales, and then you can go to a VP of ticket sales, and then you go to a CTO, which is a chief ticketing officer, right? And then you oversee an entire ticket sales operation. That's one route.
Mm-hmm.
One of my best friends, Frankie Carnevale, he played Section 5 football at Athena.
Okay, that sounds familiar.
Frankie Carnevale, yep, that's my boy. He was on a similar path. He went to the New Jersey Devils,
Okay.
sold for them. Then, as soon as we opened the Formula One Miami, they opened it up here. He's like, Rick, what do you think? I'm like, yeah, it's a no-brainer. He came down. He was the number one rep for F1, and he made a different move to a different team. He does the partnerships now.
Okay.
So he does the F1 Miami partnership sales. So instead of selling you a $100,000 suite for F1 weekend, he sold a $1 million partnership to Liquid IV, right? Where he's working with the higher ups at Liquid IV, and they're sponsoring one of our hospitality spaces, and they get all these inclusions, and that deal's $1 million, right? So there's levels to the organization, whereas that could be another route for me on the Dolphin side of things, and go like Hard Rock Stadium, for example. Hard Rock is our our sponsor for the stadium.
Mm-hmm.
That deal, I think it was like $10 million or something like that to sell that sort of deal, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's another side. If you don't want to go to the management ticket sales, you go to partnerships, and then you try to bring in larger deals where it's mutually beneficial for both parties, and you work on like long-term deals like that. So that's the two paths right now that I'm trying to choose between. Also, I could stay where I'm at for a couple more years. There's nothing wrong with that either.
Mm-hmm.
So really just trying to weigh the options and see what the best fit is.
What or who have you met? Have you met any, like, during a home game you run into? I mean,
Yeah,
Miami's kind of famous.
they are.
This time I mean, just the city itself, it's worldwide. I mean, you got people coming all over the world just to come to Miami. So.
For sure. I kind of take it for granted sometimes, and I don't even really think about it anymore, because it's like when you first start and you see like a celebrity, you're like, whoa.
Yeah.
But now you have to kind of play it cool, right? Because you want to seem professional.
Yes.
So just an example on top of my head, I had a suite, and Derek Jeter, Jorge Posada, Omar Rashawn, or the guy that he did like NBA back in the day, but they were all in a suite, and I'm super nervous trying to play it cool. But hey, Mr. Jeter, how's the game going? You need anything?
Yeah.
Or like I saw LL Cool J walking by me in the stadium. I go LL, just stuff like that. Bill Self, the Kansas basketball coach.
Yep.
I was hosting him for Formula One weekend, so I actually have his phone number. He was like, Ricky, text me any game you want to come to.
Really?
We'll put your feet on the wood. Yeah.
Nice.
So there's a bunch of people. Dave Portnoy, he has a house in South Florida. We saw him at the Floyd Mayweather fight. There's a bunch of them. A lot of players. There's probably a few that are slipping my mind, but yeah. So it's fun when you get to do that.
That's
sure.
awesome.
Yeah.
That is really awesome. Now, along your lines, when we were chatting earlier, I really didn't even get into this with you as far as other people. I'm trying to let people know, different avenues. When your playing days are over, like I said, we've had Dan DeBose on, now you. Other people in the area that are still involved in sports, even though they're not playing the sport.
Yeah.
We ran through is like Ryan Poles. I don't know.
Yeah. He's the GM of the Bears.
Yes.
Canandaigua guy.
Tony Mumford.
Okay.
Mum guy. See, he's from Rochester.
Yep.
Another one, I've heard. He went to Gage Chili.
Okay.
Played for the University of Miami. Long story short, he's now the defensive line coach for the Philadelphia Eagles.
Okay.
Gage Chili High School.
Yep.
Just like I said, trying to let people know there's other things still sports related, still making pretty good buck.
Yeah.
And you're still doing something you love.
For sure. Top of my head when you mentioned that, a friend of mine, Mike Lacey, was a football player at Arcadia, a couple years older than me. He does scouting for the Colts now.
Oh, really?
So it's everywhere, right?
Yeah.
So you start, you think you started with Cortland, or and then you work your way up. You do some scouting, recruiting, whatever the case is, and then he got his start, and then you work your way up. That's how you become a GM, right? Where you're overseeing an entire team.
Yeah.
So there's all sorts of avenues: ticket sales, partnerships, scouting, you can do any side of the business. And yeah, I would recommend if you're passionate about sports and it's not easy to start out. It's a grind for sure.
Yeah.
But if it's something you're passionate about, I would definitely recommend getting your start.
Another one is went to school right here over at Greece Olympia that I know pretty well, and he's on a lot of Notre Dame football games. Is Jimmy Echo,
Yeah.
and he is usually the umpire, so he's behind the linebackers. So whenever he's on a game, I'm always locked in on him, watching him.
Yep.
And I text him. A couple of years ago, he did the Georgia TCU game,
Yep.
national championship game.
I remember that. I know Mr. Echo too. Yeah.
Oh, you know him?
Yeah, I played ball with his son.
Okay,
Yeah.
great guy.
Yeah, he's great.
And so there was a play in that game, and he's the umpire, and he's watching the running, and it's one of the plays where the quarterback took it out the last way and went the other way. So I think it was the kid from Georgia at the time. He took it out and went, and Jimmy's still looking at the running back. And
faked him out
I
too.
texted him. I was like, Jimmy, I gotta ask you something. Did you get faked out? He goes, no, John. That's where we're looking. He was like,
Yeah.
Faked out. But just like I said, just talking to people like that, just like I said, lives right in our city. Besides that, what we're going to do now is I'm going to go through a couple of our sponsors and just mention those which I had before. At the beginning of our show, I had Ricky give me some pictures, and if people noticed on our last couple of episodes that at the beginning of our show is whoever's on our show that day, I had pictures in the beginning of the show. I'll show you.
Yeah.
I'll give you a sneak preview. Is the picture of our guests. After today is our last episode in the garage at my house. Next after this, we'll be up at Greece Olympia High School. We'll be there August 5th, 6th, and 7th. This episode will be out Wednesday. Next Wednesday is the 30th.
It's the 17th, so
24th. Well, what I'm starting to do this month, I was doing it once. We were having an episode once every 2 weeks. Because when Paul and I were doing this in the beginning, I was like, I don't want to jump all the way in.
Yep.
I just want to do a little. So we're doing it every 2 weeks, which was cool. Now in July, we're like, okay, take it close to football. Let's have it once a week. So now we're doing it once a week. And I'm trying to get episodes out, taped, and then out. This episode will be out July 24th at 4 p.m. It'll be on Facebook at 4:05. The other thing, which I always forget, is if you have not subscribed, please subscribe to our channel. This is our podcast. As far as views, people viewing us, it's been awesome. It really, it's been really cool seeing how many people watch. But subscribing is important. And like I said last week, when Danny was here, I was telling his mother, Mary Ellen, make sure you subscribe. And she was like, well, how much is it? And I said, it's nothing. So I've been telling people, this is something that you can do that costs $0, which these days is pretty cool.
Absolutely.
Everything costs a lot.
Yep.
So please subscribe to our channel. Well, like I said, then we're going to be up at Greece Olympia doing the West Side Camp, and that'll be August 5th, 6th, and 7th. And those I'm going to have out to the public on the 8th, 9th, and 10th of August. After that, August 19th, we will be at Irondequoit High School. That is the first day of practice for Section 5. Paul and I will be out at Irondequoit, and we're going to go live. We're going to attempt to go live.
You guys got it.
Yeah. Thanks for the confidence.
Gotcha.
So that's our first live one. After that, the first game of the year, which is also up at Irondequoit, is when we were talking about rivals, we had Dan Fichter on about a month or so on. And Irondequoit opens up with Eastridge, first game of the year. And we're going to be up at Irondequoit. That's September 6th, 6 o'clock. Actually, we'll be on before that. Like I said, what I've told people is our role up there that day is we're going to do a pregame, like a little half hour, 40-minute pregame, 5-minute halftime, and like a 1.5 hour postgame. The game itself, on varsity media to watch the game. So we're going to do that up there. And that also is going to be live. So we're going to get into that. During the season, September 3rd is the week right before the first week. We're going to be up at Premier Sports, myself and Paul with Joe Muno. Joe is good enough to have us up there. We're going to broadcast once a week during the season. And we're going to talk about, well, the first night we're there, we're going to have Joe in. We're going to talk about, I want to talk to him. He's a long-time Section 5 football coach. And he's running Premier Sports out of the mall for years and years. So we're going to talk a little bit about that, talk about the upcoming games of the week. And the next week when the games are played, we're going to talk about the games that were played, week 1, the games of week 2, the upcoming games, and we're going to give out a Player of the Week award. You know, so we were talking a little bit earlier. Those we are not voting on. I have, right now, I have a person from the DNC who we kind of know. We also have a newscaster and a radio announcer of sports. So those people are going to be, as far as voting. And I did say to them, at some point this year, we have to have a lineman. Because, you know,
It's only right.
they got to get a little love.
They get some love, yeah.
Yeah, you know, so, anyways, that's what we got going on. So you're going back Sunday?
Sunday.
And then what goes on after that now? I mean, now that, because they're going to be starting training camp. Where's their training camp?
It's right.
Is it at the facility?
It's at the facility.
See, a lot of teams are doing that.
It's at the facility. Well, it's a brand new facility. So
Yeah.
we'll get training camp going. We get some of the fans out to training camp, and then we'll have some preseason games and be another good football season. I'm excited.
Yes. And I got a feeling that the Bills, you know, they're building a new stadium.
Yeah.
In 2026, they're going to open up a new stadium. And right now at Fisher, they're on a 1-year contract with Fisher.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like 1 year at a time. I got a feeling in 2025 could be the last one at Fisher. I mean, they've been doing it now 23 years, I believe. This is be their 23rd year at Fisher.
They'll be missed
Yes.
in Rochester if they live.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, being from Rochester and working it, yeah, I have my, you know, whatever. But as far as the average fan, we're right in the middle. You know, Buffalo to the west, Syracuse to the east, and we're kind of like an hour and a half from both of them. And, you know, being successful, you know, everybody loves a winner.
Yep.
So that, we've had a lot of people. Well, every practice right now, I know so well.
And that's what I heard.
Yeah.
You can't even get it. You can't even get a ticket
Yeah,
to the
no.
practice.
I got people trying to
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah.
that's becoming harder and harder.
Mhm.
I mean, back when we were doing it, say, in 2010,
Easy.
yeah,
You give them away for free.
you go to Lakins again.
Mm-hmm.
So, anyways, that's about all I got. How are you doing? You doing all right?
I'm doing good.
You good?
Doing good. Appreciate
All right.
you.
Thank you very much for being here.
Yes, sir.
And this is the end.
Sounds
We're
good.
going to turn on 3 and say, keep it real. All right, ready? 1, 2, 3. Keeping it real, Section 5 football. Have a great night. Take care.
There was once a day that I would pray for you. I'd go and misbehave just so you'd notice too. Sneaking looks up and down from across the room. And damn, what a hell of a view. I feel good, you look great. I like you, I can't wait. A first time, a first date. You're so fine, I'm so late. You sip wine, I drink straight. Don't waste time to my place. I feel my heart erase. So catch me if I fall. I'm on tap. I'm loving your vibe, always have your back. We like all the same tracks, listen all night in the sheets all black. Said I'm falling fast, don't remember life before you, that's fact. I feel good, you look great, I like you, I can't wait. A first time, a first date, you're so fine, I'm so late. You sip wine, I drink straight, don't waste time to my place. I feel my heart erase, so catch me if I fall.